Should have a red light on, Angelo.
Yeah, it's the.
Okay, Andrew Bell. Andrew Bell. Gayon. Saw you. Poesi, I saw you. Crystal. Crystal. Jordan. Daniel. Chanel, she was just here. Rosie. Angelo. Chris Norecci. Dustin. Harold, I saw in here. Olivia. Marielle?
Here.
That's you? Okay, I'm gonna, okay. Kristen? That's you? Jesus, I saw you. Kenneth? 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 Paul Tochi? Paul? Paul? Michael Withrow? Okay. Hey, this is, welcome. This is REE 5890. You're not registered for this class. I don't think there was anybody in here I didn't call. So if you're not registered for this class, you probably should go out and enjoy a beautiful day. Okay? This is me. I'm the instructor, Professor San Miguel, Mr. San Miguel. The way you get a hold of me is this way, via email. Okay? I'm generally on. Unless I'm traveling, I should get back to you pretty much instantly. Okay? I mean, some of you people see, did I get back to you instantly?
It was scaringly fast.
Scaringly fast. I'm usually online. Now, depending on what you ask, I may not be able to answer, right? So if I got to go to my notes or whatever, I may not be in the office. So it's the best way to communicate. I know younger people are struggling with email. You know, it's like on a Snap or whatever. I don't do any of that stuff. So email works. It's the best way to get a hold of me. Okay? Why are we here? Why are we here? We're here to learn. And I've been doing this class. I'm on year number 9. I started in this program when we started the MSRED in 2009. This was a 2-credit class at the time. I do this for fun. I do this because I enjoy it. I do it to share what I know. I give it my all, and I expect my all from my students. If you don't want to give your all, you should not be here. And I'm going to say that loud. If you don't want to give your all, you shouldn't be here. You pay good money for a program. If you're not going to take advantage of it, go do something else. I mean, I'm serious. And I've just seen way too many students in the program. Case in point, we've got 19 students. Class has started. Half of you are here. I'm like the preacher preaching to the choir, right? You guys are here. Where's everybody else? So maybe you can relay that. Maybe the ones that want to watch it on YouTube can go to YouTube. But if you pay good money and you want to learn, then you guys should come in here. If you just want a piece of paper, you're probably really in the wrong program, okay? Learning is not easy. Some of you are about to finish the program. Some of you are new in the program. Learning is not easy. It requires hard work. It requires effort. It requires listening. It requires focus. It requires silence and concentration. And it requires making mistakes sometimes, because the way we learn is when we make mistakes. Okay? So a lot of times, if in some of the case studies, this is a case study intensive class. If I had known this, well, some of the learning is by doing. That's how we learn sometimes. Well, we gotta really dig down, right? If we want to just be spoon-fed something that we can regurgitate instantly, we probably shouldn't be in a graduate program, okay? A graduate program forces us to get out of our comfort zone and work a little bit, okay? So, the goal here is to try to help you learn and utilize the tools and reference materials that we have. It is a quantitative class. Now, quantitatively is not like we're not going to be doing derivatives here. We're not going to be doing high mathematics. Everything we do in accounting is addition, multiplication, subtraction, division, okay? It's all easy stuff, but it does require a certain bit of work. It requires basic tools, which I'll go through in a second, but if we don't have those tools, we need to get it. My goal here is not to make you accountants, okay? I don't expect anybody in a program like this to come into a master's in real estate development and become a master at accounting. If you want to be an accountant, it's a different tool, different skill set, different program. What I hope to teach from here are the basic underlying concepts that will help your understanding, reading, and utilization of financial statements and financial information more relevant to your work, especially as it's focused on the real estate industry, okay? So it is methodology. Now, in particular, there are 4 things or 5 things that we're concerned about here, okay? So there is accounting literature, and we'll go through all of this. There is accounting literature that is critical, okay, to how we account or how we report transactions in the real estate industry. In particular, when we acquire and develop properties, when we own properties, especially when we own properties and we hold them for lease for other people, when we sell property, okay, and then ultimately, because this is a very cyclical industry, it's a cyclical business, and we see a lot of volatility as it relates to valuations and pricing, there are issues that as accountants we take a look at and we need to consider in this particular course, okay? We're going to learn how to read and how to analyze financial statements, especially as it relates to this industry, okay? We're going to learn to use financial reports, and ultimately the purpose of all of this is to help us gather information and learn how to process it, okay? So, you got any questions? I sent a syllabus. If you didn't get the syllabus, let me know. Should have gotten the syllabus a week ago. There were 2 that signed up late. I sent those, but that syllabus with the first week's assignment went out last Wednesday or Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So it clearly lays out what the objectives of the class are. I'm going to go through them to make sure that we don't have any doubts, okay? As with all of my classes, they will always evolve, okay? Now, this class is pretty stable right now. It's also the last time that this class is going to be taught. I'm going to modify this for next summer. I'm not going to modify it significantly. I'm going to modify it slightly. I'm going to drop some technical accounting concepts, and I'm going to add some due diligence concepts from a class that we've dropped in the program, because I want to make sure that those that are in a program take advantage of some of those due diligence concepts, okay? So it's just an evolution. I think it's healthy. I revamped this class about 3 years into it. You know, it's been 6 years since. You got to continually update. So we'll revamp it lightly, but it is as we go along. And there's information that you guys want to spend more time on, we can do that. If you want a little bit less of something, we can do that. But there's certain basic core information that we need to cover, okay? What I've done, I have freed this class from textbooks. So that you know, when we taught this class, when I started teaching this class, there were 2 required texts. A lot of pressure from students. At the end of the day, do I think that it's better to have texts? Absolutely. Guys, I need to do something. I need electronics. I'm going to jump ahead. I need electronics off. I need eyes. I need eyes, no electronics in the class, please, because I can't talk to the tops of heads. I talk to eyes, okay? Thank you. This is a recommended textbook for the class. It's written by Maria Davis, who's a partner at Deloitte. It's for accountants. It's probably a little bit more than what you need. Now, I've read it. I've extracted my notes from it. I'll give you the best that I can from it, okay? So you don't have to do it. The other one, and I did put this in the syllabus, the American Institute of CPAs has a continuing education class on the same concepts that we talked about that are relevant. You do not have to buy this. This is roughly a $200 course. You do not have to buy it, but if you're interested in the subject, okay, the material is available in hard copy. It's also available online. You don't need to do it. We'll cover what you need to know in this class and what you need to know for the program and what you need to know as non-accountants in a development business without having to buy them. But the information that you're going to get is primarily extracted from these 2 texts, just to let you know. This text, so that you know, comes from the base for this. The original textbook on real estate accounting was put together by a guy named Jim Klink, who was a partner at Price Waterhouse. And this was a guy that I was fortunate enough early, very early in my career to work with. He was out west in our practice, but I did a tremendous amount of work. And I'll get to how I got to this class in a couple of minutes, because we never know. There's another, we had a former student, one of my former students who's still in the program was asking about taxation. This is a textbook that's been put together by a professor at NYU. I will spend part of the last class on taxation-related matters, but this is not a structuring class, and it's not a taxation class. This is a sort of accounting, financial reporting, financial analysis type class, which I think is what's most relevant. If you have the need and you have the desire to know about taxation as it relates to real estate in a more in-depth perspective, principles of real estate accounting and taxation, I'll leave it here. You can come up during the break, take a look at it. It's available as an e-book, and it's also available in hard copy, okay? But as we'll learn in the last class, accounting is one thing, taxation is another, okay? Two totally different concepts. And so I don't want to focus on taxation. There's people who do this for a living, who get a law degree, they're CPAs, they get a law degree, they get an LLM. So if you want to focus on structuring in real estate, you probably need to get additional education beyond this. Or, what most of us do in the industry, you find a good attorney that's done that, and you pay them to do the work for you, okay? But this is a text that's very interesting. I did not bring it. Those of you who've had my classes in the past may know that there's a book I always recommend for people in this program. It's written by a guy named Benninga. Okay, he's got 2 textbooks out there. He is a professor at University of Jerusalem or Tel Aviv. It's one of the 2 big Israeli universities. He also teaches at Wharton. The textbook is it's essentially a 3rd-year undergraduate finance book, and it's called Finance or Excel for Finance. And as developers, we need to understand and work with Excel in great detail. And that's the one thing that I know Dr. Forgy and I and some of the other instructors in the program continue to harp on, the fact that we can never be good enough at Excel and understanding how to use the tools in Excel. I will give you a small module. It's really outside the purview of the class, but I'll give you a small module probably the next session or the 3rd with some of the tools that I have found helpful. How to build data tables, for example, okay? And I'll go through some basic Excel etiquette that I think is helpful. But it's called Excel for Finance. It's like a junior level finance book. You can get it on Amazon. It's only like 70 or 80 bucks. I'll bring it another day, okay? Or I'll show it to you. But it's a book I think is important. There's a bunch of other stuff out there. I had to do, this is an older book, okay? But this is free. This is from the IRS. You've got tax questions. The IRS website has incredible information that is available for free. I had to do some research this year. I'm not a tax guy. My background is more in auditing, financial reporting, corporate operations, okay? My tax knowledge typically is limited to doing TurboTax once a year, okay? This year I had some pretty intricate tax situations to go through on a personal level, and I had to research. I got all my information for free right out of the IRS website. I was able to download very clear guidance on specific subject matters. Now, it takes time. You got to look. You got to know what you're looking for. You got to know how forms work. You need to know how the tax structure works. But the information, the baseline information, is there. Okay, so I walked in. One of my nephews, my youngest nephew's at FIU, and his dad, my brother-in-law, was in town, and so we went to FIU yesterday, and we walked through the library, and it's amazing. Our library still has books, just like Nova's library. At the high school where I coach, the library no longer has books, and for me it was kind of shocking, but it's the way of the world. And the beauty is that when we're not in class, we can find the answer to just about everything that we want without even having to move. And so there's a whole world of information out there that's available to us. as long as we find the right source. Those of you taking the capital markets class know that Investopedia and Wikipedia and whatever pedia is probably not the right place to get information, okay? But there's a world of information out there if we just take the time to look for it, okay? Whatever we don't know, I've struggled with some things in Excel. I go get this book. If I don't figure it out with that book, go to YouTube and figure out. There's plenty of people that just sit there and record themselves, you know, showing you how to do a pivot table or how to do this or how to do that, okay? So there's a world of information out there. My comment to all of you really is, at the end of the day, is that we need to be learned and educated, okay? We need to read. Knowledge is power. The more we know, the more capable we are of doing our work, okay? The more that we know, the more we can gather. I was going to do it today, but I'm going to leave for the next session because I want to make sure that I share all of the sources of information that I use. I'm not perfect. I look for certain things in my daily life for what my profession is. But I get multiple newsletters a day. There are multiple publications that I get. Okay, so my sources of information help me formulate my ideas, my opinion, ultimately help me form decisions, hopefully that are informed. They may not get me to the right place, they may not get me to where I'm going, but I at least want to be informed. And the way to be informed is by doing research. Those of you who took the test the other day saw me preparing for I gave a talk at a men's retreat the other day at our church, and one of the things I talked about, which has nothing to do with this class, but ultimately says a lot of times people say, I think, or, I was talking to a guy yesterday, he said, no, my dad gave me his opinion on this, and then I gave him my opinion. Well, I don't want to shut him down, but see, his dad didn't give him an opinion. His father gave him facts after having done research. My friend gave his father opinions. So we all are entitled to opinions, right? But we should form our opinions and our decisions based upon gathering of information, which involves at times going to people or to sources that may tell us the things that we don't want to know or hear, okay? And so if we're a developer, for example, right, and we're thinking that right now we want to break it. I got a call yesterday. I got on a 2-hour call yesterday. I don't really work per se anymore. I had a 2-hour call with a guy that used to be my boss at one time. So I ran a property. I ran a property. It was a very unique property in Dade County called the Miami Free Trade Zone, which operates as a foreign trade zone. It's foreign trade zone number 32. It's a very unique, sort of import-export business development program that the U.S. government set up back during the Depression era. I was stuck there for 4 years. I learned a lot of what I know in real estate, there. Why? Because it stunk. The place was terrible. Everything, it was miserable. But when you're suffering, you're learning. When you're faced with adversity, you got to come up with things. So curiously, this guy that had been my boss during the first 3 out of the 4 years that I was there is involved in a business that is now buying this property. And the first thing I said to him was, Ford, don't you learn? I mean, didn't you go through this once already? And the worst thing is they're paying like double what we had paid for it way back when. But, at least they took the time to gather facts. They say, this guy ran this place for 4 years. Tell us what you know. Tell us the good, tell us the bad, and tell us the ugly, right? So then you can form decisions. So I'll share with you as it relates to the real estate industry, as it relates to accounting, as it relates to finance-related matters, where I get my information. You may like some of those. You may find some of those don't apply to you. And then there may be other ones that I don't have an interest in, but you may be interested in. I'm not a big shopping center guy. You are. You should subscribe to newsletters from ICSE, for example. I'm not a multifamily guy, but there's people out there that are, and there will be some source. I don't get stuff from multifamily, but there will be some source of information. You're in property management, right? So if you're getting stuff, you can probably get stuff from BOMA or IRAM or somebody like that may be relevant to what your course of work is or your line of work is. We should always find inputs of information, okay? So anyway, what do we need for this class? We got to read the Wall Street Journal. We should read the Wall Street Journal regardless, okay? In addition to that, we should read our local paper. I don't care if it's El Sol de Hialeah, I don't care if it's the Miami Herald, I don't care if it's the Boca Raton Lifestyle magazine or whatever, the Coconut Grove Times, you know, whatever. We should read our local paper, the Herald, the Sun Sentinel, the Palm Beach Times, okay, the Orlando Sun Sentinel, whatever, and we should read the Wall Street Journal. You don't like the Journal? Read the New York Times. Got a nice finance section, okay? You don't like the Times? Read the Washington Post. Read a national newspaper, okay? And I'll give you some other things that you should supplement. You need MS Office. Is it you that, was it you, Chanel? Okay. You need MS Office. We need to work, at the end of the day, we need to work with standards, okay? So, for example, in this program, most of you by now should have taken an Argus class. Why did you take Argus? Because Argus is a standard in the industry. And everywhere you go to a bank, you want a big loan, they're going to ask you for the Argus run. Okay? Excel is the same thing. People use Excel. Your boss is going to say, your bank is going to say, your partners are going to say, send me your projection so that they can tinker around with it. Okay? So we need to use standards. And MS Office is a standard. You can use it in a Mac OS, but you need to have Excel. Okay? I mean, I used to use Lotus. You know, died. It wasn't, what, am I dating myself? Okay? This is the calculator I use. I believe Dr. Forgy and most of you in the program use the Texas Instrument one. I always carry this calculator with me. You don't need it in this class. You need a calculator in your life. So, if you know the keystrokes for the TI, excellent. I don't know them. I know the keystrokes for this, okay? But most of the time, all I use this for is plus, minus, times, and what did Jethro Bodine used to say? Gazintices. Who knows who Jethro Bodine was? The Beverly Hillbillies?
Yeah, no, that's not.
You didn't know? Okay.
No, I knew Jethro.
Yeah, but he was like, so it was like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and gazintices. You know what gazintices are, right? 2 goes into 4, 2, 2 goes into 6, 3. So, anyway, that's how.
Forgy uses that too.
Does he use this one? I thought he used, okay, because some other students have used the TI. It doesn't matter, whatever you use, but you should always have something, because you're at a dinner table, you're at lunch, sometimes people are talking. I'm in the pool the other day, working out, and there's some guys that they're really more builders. One guy's like a high-end home builder, but his son's a big PM at a regional construction business. And they were out going fishing or something, and there was bad weather, so they're sitting at the pool deck waiting to go out on the boat. And I'm doing my laps and stuff, and all these guys are talking about his business. Because that's what's typical, you know, and if you go to lunch with people that you know from work, and you're in the industry where people went, oh, I heard this multifamily, I heard this retail thing, and I heard this office. But what's important, and one of the things that we'll talk about in this class is you know, the value of numbers and the relationships that we can draw from them, and ultimately how that can help us in our work, okay? So always carry something. I mean, I've got the app for this one on my phone, so I don't carry this around with me anymore, because I know I can always do, you know, a time value of money calculation on my phone. But always use this. I've also, you know, curiously enough, I now do most of my time value of money stuff on Excel, which I always stayed away from. But now I've sort of gone over, you know, to the other side, and I practically do everything in Excel. You know, I used to really rely on the calculator, but I don't anymore, okay? So, but you need Excel, and you need Word in this class, okay? And I think the program's got some laptops for those of you who don't have one, that I think, you know, they're available for loaning during the program, okay? There's 4 things that impact your grade, okay? Attendance and participation. We're going to talk about that in a second, because I think I'm going to make you guys happy. I think I'm going to make you guys happy, okay, in a second, okay? But you got to participate. You got to let me know you're here. You got to let me know you're alive. You got to ask questions. You got to send stuff in, right? All right. Case studies. I'll give you the weights in a second of what, because we'll give you a couple points for that. Case studies are critical. Case studies in this class are, for the most part, things that I designed. For the most part, things that I've designed from actual things I've done at work. Okay, so the one I gave you this week was something I made up on a cruise ship one day, you know, when I was preparing to teach this class. And I was in Brazil, that's why you see all these Recife Gardens and all this kind of stuff, okay? That's, maybe, why has this guy got all this Brazilian stuff here? So I was on a cruise and I prepared that case, but most of these things are things I've pulled from work. I may have changed some of the numbers, I may have eliminated some of the complexities in it to make it easy, but there will be things that you work through, okay? That'll be heavy, because a lot of the learning in this class will come from you're actually doing work in the case studies, okay? And hopefully what you're learning is not just accounting or financial concepts, you're also learning about the real estate industry and things that happen, okay? I've tried to broaden the scope of this class so that we're not in here for 8 weeks talking about debits and credits and statements of cash flows and things like that. I'm not, we'll deal with that. Those of you who've taken classes with me in the past know that I use the Wall Street Journal, and I use the assessment tool that they do. They've got an assessment every week. They've got one focused on finance, and they've got one focused on accounting. And I'll use those. It's 10 questions or multiple choice, but it requires you to read the journal. And my objective here is to get you accustomed to reading the newspaper. So it's not, so those of you, you've seen my style. Those of you who've had me more than once, you know that they start really easy. You'll have links to the articles, and then they get a little bit more complex, because what I ultimately want to do is not have you read selected articles, but get accustomed to reading the entire paper every day. Now, maybe you don't read every article. I don't read every article in the newspaper every day, but I do go at least through all the headlines. I'm not reading that on my iPad in the morning. I don't even go through the physical paper anymore. I've also gone, digital on that. But there's things that attract you, and it definitely, if you're reading a headline every day, you realize that most news stories have a life that, like Trump is on in the newspaper every day, and his stories tend to go on for days and days. But most business stories tend to have 2 or 3 days of life as well, okay? Not everything comes out in one day. Things sort of evolve. And so sometimes you don't have to read everything to get a sense of what's going, okay? And you ask the question, why? Why do you have to read? Why do you have to know? The real question that I ask is, so this guy calls me yesterday, they want to buy this thing. They're building a 1 million some odd square foot industrial asset up in Opelika. My question to him is this the right time to develop? What does the supply and demand paradigm look like? What do the general economic decision, what does the general economic climate look like? What does employment look like? What are vacancy rates? What companies are coming into the market? What companies are leaving? What's happening in sectors like retail? What's happening in sectors like industry, right? What's happening with trade that's going to impact ultimately, right? The decisions that we need to make. What's happening with interest rates, right? And we last met with 1, 2, 3, 4 of you were here last Tuesday. Where's the 10-year Treasury today? I mean, you got to know. I ask every week. Well, you figured I'd ask in this class too, right? Where's the 10-year Treasury? I know you've been in the Bahamas, but we don't know. 3.2. Let's try door number 2.
2.2.
2.2? Are you sure about that? You had a baby. You haven't read the paper in 10 days. It got up to almost 2.4, and it's backed off a little bit, 2.3 something. But it was almost at 2.2 when you left in a week. So the question is, what's the trend, and what caused it to move? Right? What caused it to move? But more importantly, what's the long-term, path? And there's 2 camps out there that are telling us, well, the Fed's going to tighten, rates are going to go up, and then there's another group saying we're stuck like Japan. They may go up a little bit, but nothing's going to happen. And then, you say, well, why do I care about this in an accounting class? Well, the question that I really ultimately come back and ask is, don't those interest rates affect our cost of capital? Aren't we living in a leveraged environment in which in real estate 70–80% of our capital stack is composed of debt? And more important than that, our cap rate's not affected by Treasury yields. And the answer to all that is yes, and so that's why we need to be aware of what's happening with the Treasuries. That's why we have to track all these things every day, okay? And then after every class, like today, we'll have a little quiz at the end of the class. Pull out, clear our desk, pull out a little sheet of paper. You got 10 really simple questions. So pay attention. Everything that you will have on that quiz later today will have been mentioned in class or will be part of your reading assignment, okay? So, pretty simple. There's not a lot of reading here. Since you don't have a textbook, I will send, I want you to read something next week. I'll send that out. But there's not a lot of reading, so, but, you know, you gotta, this is how it's gonna come out, right? So you get 10 points for like showing me you're active. Show signs of life. Yes, professor. Yes. Give me eye contact. Yes. Send an email. Hey, where'd you get your hair cut? You know, where'd you buy your clothes? I mean, like real substantive questions, okay? All right. Case studies, 40%. The assessments, 20%, and then the exams, 30%, okay? So, pretty simple, okay? And I'll talk about that in a second. Now, you know, this thing's like from Nova, whatever, you know, the percents, you know, whatever the numbers are. All right, so let me talk about this one. So listen, this thing goes back to my first class. And I'll repeat in one of my future sessions why I'm adamant on people taking notes. Those of you who've taken my class before know why I'm adamant people taking notes, because there's empirical evidence that supports that people who are listening and transcribing are going to do better in exams, and forget exams, they're going to do better in retaining knowledge than people that are just like the court reporter. It comes in one ear, goes out the other, and they never captured it. It just sort of flowed through them, right? You know, just sort of went through them. But we'll go through that, okay? So please, while we're in here, if somebody's making a presentation, give them courtesy, give them, you know, give them attention. I know it's not easy. I know it's Saturday. You don't have to tell me. It's Saturday, it's 1 o'clock, and you'd rather be outside. You're not the only one. I get it. But we're here for a reason. So we're making a sacrifice, and it's all going to pay off. Now, here comes, I think here comes, so here's what's important. If something doesn't make sense, you got to ask. And there's no such thing as a dumb question. Now, I'm talking a mile a minute. I probably say stuff that's wrong or crazy, or I make a mistake, or I go backwards, or I didn't explain it. I may explain something in a way that makes sense for me, but it may not make sense for you. The only way that I know that you haven't understood it is, one, if I get some sort of, you know, look, right? Or you raise your hand and say, hey, or later on, you send a note saying, hey, professor, look, this thing doesn't make sense. I'm going to make you proud. I was reading the Wall Street Journal, and I came across this article that said this, and you said that. Okay? So ask, okay? That's one of the ways to learn. Now, participating in a class session always enhances the learning process. Okay. I'll go on ahead and do these. You get a case study every week. There actually will not be a case study for next week, but every session after that will have a case study. Okay, the way the case studies will work typically is I will present a subject, give you some background. In some cases, given your professional experience and background, you may be totally comfortable with the material. Some of it may only be a primer. Okay? You're going to get a case study. The case study, and I'm going to remind you, get the case study, read it, read it. Read it, put it aside, you know, think about it. Come back to it. Aggregate the pieces or disaggregate the pieces. You know, little bite-sized things. And then start working on it. And then ask questions while you're working on it, right? Most of the case studies I'm going to send, unless you are working in the finance area, in a real estate development business, they may not be second nature to you. So you may have to say, oh, okay, I can work it to here. Hey, professor, what do you think of this? Hey, I was thinking of doing something like this. Does that make sense? Hey, can you explain what that is? Okay? So the more iterative the process becomes, the more you'll learn, which is what this is all about. I required these things to come in on Tuesday, so I had enough time to grade them. I don't have enough time to grade 19 assignments from Thursday to Saturday, so I may not have the stuff graded by the time Saturday rolls around, but I don't like to see things accumulate, okay? But I'll get them off, but I'll send them out right after class. I'll have them loaded as soon as class ends. I'll send out the assignments, okay? And then they're due on the Thursday, okay? Late submissions will not be accepted. I have witnesses, right? Late submissions will not be accepted. I don't know why, and again, I know it doesn't apply to all of you. I don't know why, you know, when you get old, you get like cranky and cantankerous, and you know, now I know why my parents used to like pull their hair when I did stuff. I didn't understand, now I understand. But what I don't understand is the lax nature of today's students and thinking that things can be turned in late, and it's okay. It's okay. All you have to do is come up with an excuse. That sounds like all the other excuses that all the other students are giving me, you know. It used to be the dog ate my, no, you know, my grandmother died. I mean, I get some really, I don't know how many grandmothers you have, okay? But it gets to a point, listen, at the end of the day, the important issue is in a professional setting, and I aspire to make this a professional setting, deadlines are deadlines. When your boss wants something, you got to turn it in. When your client wants something, you got to turn it in. When an RFP is due, you got to submit it. You don't submit it, what happens, Rosie? You don't make the cut. They don't even look at it. One less binder to take a look at. Okay, so let's get accustomed in this setting to the way we're going to work in. Okay, we're going to have an exam after every session. I already said, you know, everything will have been discussed in the session or will be part of either your case studies or your reading assignment. If you pay attention to the lectures, if you do your work, if you do any reading that may be assigned, you should get 100. I mean, this stuff is like super easy. And I do get people that get hundreds. I had a friend of mine came into the class one day. He wanted to just come in, and he's a banker. He doesn't know anything about real estate. He's actually like in treasury and stuff, so he doesn't deal with real. He came in one day and like middle of a class, sat in the back, listened, and at the end he took the quiz. And this was when like they were like 8-hour classes, you know. I mean, I've had all kinds of like 5 sessions of 8 hours or something like that. We had like an hour lunch, and at the guy got 100. Nobody else in the class got it. The guy got 100. He didn't know anything, but he listened. He listened. I tell a story. A friend of mine asked me to go teach Sunday school one day for him. This is years ago. I don't really like to teach little kids. I do football because you can yell and curse and stuff. But little kids, you have to be nice and all that. So I'm there in the Sunday school class or whatever. And at the end of the class, so I had 2 kids that were playing football for me at the time. I ran the youth program in my community at the time. I had two of my football players in the class, and there were like 3 or 4 girls. And you know, football players are dumb and you know, just not paying attention and whatever. And the girls were like super attentive. And oh wait, these people are like juniors in college or something now. So this was a long time ago already. And so at the end of the class, I said, okay, we're gonna have a quiz. Like, you can't have a quiz. Like, God wouldn't allow this. I'm like, yeah, God will allow this. Do you know that the girls all got like really bad grades and the 2 boys did really well? And you know what I ascribed it to? They were used to listening to me on the football field, and that's one of the things that I always equate to one of the values of sports. And why I don't communicate with parents, why I communicate with players, is when you're on a field, you're accustomed to listening to your coach and listening to instructions. What practice is tomorrow? At what time? How are we dressing? When's the bus leaving for a game, right? You know, what are we lifting? Are we not lifting? What's the issue? And you can say, well, why are you talking about this? Well, when you're sitting down talking to your clients, what are you going to bring your laptop and take notes? Or are we going to learn to interact with people and listen and try to retain, okay? So these are all life skills. I was showing Dr. Forgy. I'll go over this one another day, but it's an article I pulled up this week on Generation Z. So I know what Generation Z was. So you know what Generation Z is? Who knows? Those are the post-millennials. So millennials, we already know millennials have no attention span, right? They sorry, Jordan. You know what, they need immediate attention. You know, they need to be told how good they do. They need to be told how good they do now. You know, they need little stars, whatever. Well, the Generation Z, this article is saying, it's like, they gotta look at their phone like every 7 seconds. So, you know, the article is from an academic, you know, magazine, but the whole point had to do with how do you deal with young people and their lack of attention, right? But, so these aren't issues related to me and you, these are issues related to our life, right? Because if you're talking to your client and you pull your phone out to look at what came across Snapchat, what's your client gonna think? Now, maybe the sad thing is your client's doing the same thing, and maybe that's the world we're living in, I don't know, okay? But, anyway, so, yeah, I mean, listen, you can get 100 in this class. All right, so this is where so what's going to happen? Look, I've gotten emails from people. I want to go on vacation this date. Are we having classes Memorial Day? I'm tired. Here's what I'm going to do for you. Here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give you the classes. These classes are going to be electronic. So you guys can, I'll send you a link on probably Thursday. You'll have 4 or 5 hours of videos to watch. They'll be broken up into little 1-hour segments. Look at Olivia, she's booked her plane to Bahamas already. She's like, I'm there, okay? Okay, I'll send it Thursday or Friday. This week I might not actually send it till Saturday because I've got a busy week and I've got one more module to record for this one, okay? So I'll do that during the week. I'll send you links. I think you're living away from here, aren't you? So you don't have to come?
I have to.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can leave earlier. Okay, so you log in, you watch the course, and then probably Monday, probably about 8 o'clock at night, if that works for everybody, I'll open up the window in Blackboard, and you'll have your quiz. Now, the window will be open for like 3 hours, so you guys got to figure it out. Monday from 8 to 11, and it closes, and when it closes, it's done. I'm not going to open it. So what that means is you have to have watched. You will have had a couple of weekdays, an entire weekend, and even part of another weekday to go through the material. And then the quiz will take, the quizzes are max like 10 questions. So it'll take you no more than 10 minutes. Now, they'll be time restricted. You probably have enough time to have your notes next to you.
10 minutes for each question?
Yeah. You'll probably be able, if you take notes while you're watching a lecture, you might even be able to, reference your notes. Okay, so it should be easy to get. Okay, it should be easy to get. Now, I did this last summer. I think I did like 1 session. Then I went away for like 5, and then I did the last one because I thought it was nice and sort of. And plus, I was traveling as well, so we got back together. Maybe we come back the last session. I don't know. I'll let you know. But for at least the next, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, you guys are on your own. That makes sense. That's good. You guys want? Or do you want me to come in and? You guys want to come in here and sit for 4 hours, Harold?
Tell Fred to do the same.
Dr. Forgy.
I don't know how he wakes up that.
Now, the thing that what I wanted to do, the tool I use. I'm not doing this through YouTube, so I'm going to send you links. I use GoToTraining, which the university has made available to us, and ideally I do the sessions interactively live. And the concern that Dr. Forgy had when I did that was, well, what happens if either you or somebody else doesn't have the connectivity at the time? And so the idea was, let's just record it. By the way, it's a lot harder. Like, I've taught, but I'm going to let you guys talk in a little bit, okay? So, but to like look at a camera and talk for 4 hours is tough. And this week I actually tried. I made a couple of my players sit in front of me, and that was worse. I was like I made them go to a library at school, and I was like, nah, I'd rather do this like by myself in my office, But it's tough because it's like really intense. And I just told Dr. Forgy, you'll likely have more than 32 hours of material. Okay, so you get more for your money because there's why are you looking at me like that? It's like I mean there might be 35 hours, or might be 36 hours. Okay, I just sort of want to I want to put it out there, and then you guys can do that. Okay, so anyway, I think that's it. Look, plagiarism. I always get people that copy. Now, the good news here is that people here can only copy from another assignment, but I've had people cheat in this class. And it's very simple. It's very simple when somebody sends in a spreadsheet, and for example, you have the same exact error that you have, and I've never seen that error in 10 years of teaching that class. And you've got the same font, which is different than everybody else's font, and the way the calculation is done is identical. It's easy when you're reviewing work to see if people are copying. Guys, at the end of the day, copying doesn't solve anything. You're cheating yourselves. So take the time. At the end of the day, I'm not concerned with the right answer. I'm concerned with the methodology of how you're trying to derive answers. In most of my case studies here, no one will ever get a 100% of the suggested answers. And I say suggested answers because in some cases, they're my answers. They may be right, they may not be right, but they're suggested answers because, you know, I've triangulated to something. I'm more concerned with how you derive. So when some of you this week sent me PDF files as opposed to source documents, I can't review PDFs. I can't. You're looking at me like, why not? Because how do I go into the cells? How do I look at the plumbing of an Excel spreadsheet when it's embedded in a PDF? I can't. Okay. So for me as an instructor to add value and come back with feedback and comments, I need to see what you're doing. Okay. So so that's why I need. But guys, don't listen. They'll you get all kinds of stuff here. You know, if you cheat, they call your parents, they throw you out of the dorms, you know, whatever. You don't want to go through this, and I don't want to go through this. You can study together, you can, you know, you can do it, but you got to do your own work. Okay, you got to do your own work. Don't sit in a group. These are not group case studies. Don't sit in a group and divide the questions. And okay, do your own work because that's how you're going to learn. And at the end of the day, you don't have a textbook in this class, and I've just freed you up from coming on Saturday afternoon. Invest the time in learning. Invest the time in learning, okay? And email me with your questions, okay? I'm going to travel at some point this summer. I may not travel till July. I may be here, okay? So, but even when I travel, if I travel when I go to Spain, I have an office where I work. So I may have different hours, but I will always go to the office every day. So ask, but seek and you shall find. Right? Knock and the door shall be opened unto you, okay? Send me your emails and you will get replies. I'm here to help you learn. I really am. You may think I'm a jerk, but I'm here to help you learn. Now, we're going to go over a whole bunch of other stuff, but do we have any questions on the sort of introductory class?
The WSG assessments?
I'm sorry? The Wall Street assessments will come typically on Thursday or Friday. They send me a notification that they put them together. Now, I've got the option to modify their questions. I usually don't. Because, I mean, I can make my own questions, but I'm just happy enough to use. So, as soon as they come to me, I send them out to you. And then I'll typically give you, what do I give you, like till like Monday at midnight or Sunday at midnight or something? I'll give you like 3 days to do it. And, but you got to get on, you got to get subscribed, and you got to start looking at it every day. Okay? It's $1 a week, guys. It's $1 a week, and it's like, it'll help you make money. Trust me. Trust me. Or lose money if you just don't read it right. Or you come up to the wrong conclusions. Okay? What else, Gail?
No, I'm just trying to figure, they come out on...
Typically it'll come out like Thursdays. And typically by Sunday night, you gotta get it done. And listen, it'll take you 10 to 15 minutes to do it. Now, how long does it take to read the paper in the morning? That's one of the things people, oh, I haven't heard this one in a while. Oh, but I can't read every article. Okay, listen, I read 3 newspapers every morning. And, you know, I'm taking care of business, I'm drinking my coffee, I got CNBC on, you know, there's stuff happening around me. But, you know, it might take me 40 minutes to go through 3 newspapers, you know. You know, do you got to spend 40 minutes? No. I mean, the Herald or the Sun Sentinel will probably take you 10. You could go through a journal in 10 minutes if you need to, but you probably should spend 15 minutes every morning, you know. And they've got some really neat articles on, like, the weekends, like, there's a whole off-duty section, which I love going to. They got like recipes and, you know, travel suggestions and stuff. I mean, but there's good business news, and it historically has not been as sensationalistic as some other media channels. It's starting to become more so, but it's not quite there yet. Okay, so it's generally, you know, pretty pretty serious that way. Any other questions on this? No? Okay. So I'm gonna raise this and turn this off. Let me just go over the syllabus, and then we'll back up a little bit, and I want to hear it. So the syllabus has all this stuff in it, right, that, you know, syllabi have, okay? But what's important are what we're doing with our sessions. And I don't know why I printed the last one, but, so basically, what we're going to track, I can do this, what we're going to track is the different concepts of the critical areas of accounting-related matter that differs from other industries. So what happens with accounting is typically, accounting is a body of knowledge, okay? It's something that God gave us to have. No, it's something that man's put together, okay? It's a body of knowledge that's been given to us for the betterment of society, okay? But what happens is different industries have different ways of working. So, for example, it's a little bit different now, but when I got out of college, the very, very first audit I went on was, there used to be an airline that was headquartered in Miami. It was called Eastern Airlines. First audit I go to is Eastern Airlines. Well, airlines have specific nuances as to how they work. For example, their revenue recognition process is much different than many other industries. Again, it's a little bit different now, but airline tickets used to be printed on paper, and that was like currency. So if you didn't have a ticket, you couldn't get a boarding pass. You know, now it's all electronic, but that ticket was like money. And what will typically happen is, I had a ticket. My flight was overbooked, no problem. The airline would endorse it. You go to another airline, they take it for its value, and then it would all go to a clearinghouse. And then, so, you know, this clearinghouse, kind of like a bank kind of clearinghouse, it would say, okay, Eastern's owed this much, Universal's owed this, and it would sort of, you know, do the clearing. Well, how do you close the month then when you don't know of all the tickets you've sold, whether the passengers have actually flown with you or not? How much do you owe? So there's estimates that are used in that industry. Inventory in that industry has something that are called rotables. So typically inventory, you have it, like parts, you have it, you repair it, and you expense it, right? So, you know, just to say something, you've got some sort of bearing in an engine, it wears out, you take that part from the shelf, you put it, and it would be an expense. But in the airline industry, most of the items are rotables. You just repair them. So the one they took off the plane goes back to the shop and gets repaired. And so there's a whole issue related to how do you treat the cost of those items and how do you treat the cost of the repair. So just like that, real estate has nuances as it relates to the long development periods that we have. We use a lot of leases, okay? And so there are certain accounting guidelines that track this industry. Next week, the one major one we'll focus on is leasing, okay? The session after that, we'll start talking about development costs, okay? The one session after that, we'll start talking about sales of real estate, okay? And then as we get into the latter sessions, we'll talk about valuation concerns, we'll talk about some taxation matters, and then we'll also talk about accounting for entities, because in real estate, one of the things that definitely marks what we do is because of the capital intensive nature of the industry, we tend to do things with partners. So we tend to have partial interests or partial ownerships in real estate ventures. And as a result of that, we need to worry about, well, how do we account if I own 100% of one thing, I can account for it one way, but what if I own 51%? Or what if I own 49%, right? How do I account for that? Okay, because it's totally different. Okay, so we'll kind of go through that, and then interlaced with those, you will have case studies that will either mirror the lecture material or complement it, okay? We've got a case study that I've added to the course that's related to doing credit analysis. And you say, well, why credit analysis? Curiously, I had lunch Thursday with some guys I used to work with and a former student who is now working at that company. And the guy said, sir, he's an ex-military guy, sir, I just want to tell you that the very first thing that I had to do when I got the FECI was do a credit analysis on a particular, potential, partner that we had. So he said, your material came in handy. So we've got one on credit analysis. I'm going to throw one in here related to closing statements, doing commercial closings, because in residential it's easy. We get this government form called the HUD-1 and we follow it. But commercial closings are a cluster. And there's stuff coming from all over, as you'll see. And that's one of my favorite case studies. That one's from a transaction we did up in Orlando. And then we're going to take a look at some financial statements of publicly traded companies. The problem with the real estate industry, those of you who've taken the capital markets class know that when we talk about real estate capital, we kind of talk about a quadrant, and that quadrant deals with equity and debt, and we've got both public and private components, right? And so what happens is when you take a look at this whole capital stack in commercial real estate, which maybe how many billions, Jordan, Angelo, do we remember? 4 trillion. Let's try door number 2.
20 trillion?
Let's try door number 3. No idea. Wow, how quickly they forget. How quickly they forget. Okay, the last number San Miguel came up with a couple years ago was closer to like 6 trillion, okay? But it's probably more than that, okay? So anyway, it's a big number. The problem is the public equity component, which is where we've got visibility, right? Where companies actually disclose information is a very small box, okay? But it's the one box we've got. And so what I like to do is use publicly traded companies because they disclose a tremendous amount of information. And we do 2 things as a result of that. Number 1, we learn accounting and we get used to looking at statements and when we get accustomed to manipulating data and information. But more important than that, we get a glimpse into the actual operations and the metrics of companies that are in our industry, okay? And that's something that we can't get otherwise. Because in our industry, one of the things that happens is everything is sort of like mystique, right? So if we say, well, all those things are trading at a 5 cap. How do we know, Harold? How do we know we're trading at a 5 cap?
We usually got to rely on market data like brokers and.
Rely on brokers? Are you serious? Are you for real?
No, not relying
No,
on
that's,
brokers.
by the way, that's the problem.
But
No, that's the problem.
You gotta, like,
Have you ever met a broker that sold the truth? I mean, I'm sorry, with all due respect. I was going exactly at
it's
that
hard
point.
to find the cap rate for.
No, it's not hard. We can get cap rates, but cap rates are comprised of what? Those of you being in the program, what's cap rate? NOI over what?
Value or
Like value, right? Sales price, whatever. Because we can have a cap rate at any point. But how do we get NOI? Who gives us that?
Companies. And then they.
Which
shimmy
companies?
it. No, because I've had deals where we send stuff out to brokers, they're like, well, take this out, put this below NOI, when it's an operating cost.
So what happens
They
is
manipulate that.
all the industry data like CoStar and REEs and Real Capital Analytics and anybody out there that's tracking our industry puts is all sort of hearsay. We can get value because in this country we record sales deeds, right? We record deeds. So sales values are known for now. We don't know, like in a lot of other countries, what may be happening. You're from Colombia, right? What the real value transaction may be, right? I'm sorry, I didn't mean like.
It's true because people are like, just put it there.
I worked in Spain for a while. Now, things in Spain have changed a lot since I worked there in the 80s. But in Spain there was, those contabilidad A y contabilidad B. There was A and B, and in some cases there was C. So You know, and there was all this, you know, black money, there was all this money that was undeclared, right? So if you're a pharmacist and you do a lot of cash business and you're not declaring that, then when you go invest that somewhere, it's got to be on the side. So, you know, a lot of residential real estate transactions in Spain at the time I lived there was done with, you know, what they call dinero negro, black money, you know, out of the system, okay? Now, again, that's all sort of, there's been a sort of big clamp on that. But going back to the thing is people are telling you stuff and we just don't really know. We've got to believe that most brokers are,
In tune with their market.
yeah, that, you know, I don't want to say that they're honest or dishonest, but they're generally going to give you something that's quasi-factual or whatever, okay? Or, you know, ultimately, we can come back, I'm sorry?
Alternative facts.
The alternative facts. But we can ultimately come back, right? We can ultimately come back and say things like, we know market rents are roughly this, because again, we don't really know what deals are getting done at. We know what asking rents are, but leases aren't recorded for the most part in this country. So we don't really know what real in-place rents are unless, you know, a seller, for example, gives us their leases, okay? We don't really know, okay? But we can ballpark, right? We know if asking is this, we can discount that a little bit. We may actually have, you know, empirical evidence to support certain transactions. We may have been involved in some where we know what real numbers are. And because we know an industry, we may know that, you know, operating expenses in industrial park in southern Palm Beach County might be $2 a square foot, you know, or operating expenses in a CBD building in downtown Miami might be, you know, $16, $17, you know, and you can kind of triangulate back to, you know, what you think occupancy is. You can kind of get there, but we don't really know that, right? We don't really know that. So, but anyway, I don't know why I went off on that, but we'll do, I know why we went off on that. We'll take a look at a 10K. That'll be for the third week. We'll take a look at a 10K, which is the annual filing that's done by publicly traded companies. Those of you who've taken the capital markets class know that. We'll look at a 10K, and we'll take a look at a 10K of a home builder. And why a home builder? Well, for a couple of things, because we don't typically deal with home building in this program, and I think it's an interesting industry because they are developers. They are pretty much self-contained developers that are focusing on a particular sort of facet, for the most part single-family homes, but more so into multifamily, and again, they get involved in a lot of areas that touch real estate. They land bank, they do land development, okay, they inventory. So there's a lot of sort of issues related to reporting for home builders, which I think are interesting. So that's a nice case to take a look at. And then for the fourth or fifth week, we'll take a look at some supplemental reports. REITs, real estate investment trusts, not by requirement, but by practice, tend to file what are called supplemental reports every quarter. And by asset class, they tend to be different. So all the multifamily guys, for the most part, will report similar stuff. For my take, the multifamily guys stink. They give you very little. Industrial guys give you some good stuff. Retail guys give you some good stuff. I usually use Simon, for example. Simon is not only, you know, a great operator, but they've got great financial reports. And so those supplementals give us incredible insight into lease rates, you know, occupancy, by different subclasses within, because they've got, you know, different product lines that they offer within the sort of broad, you know, mall or, you know, retail REIT, you know. So we'll take a look at that. We'll do some financial analysis, but not only will we learn how to use some financial analysis tools, but we'll take a look at some of the underlying operations and metrics of, you know, the office class or multifamily or retail, which are the ones that I typically use because I think they cut through a lot of real estate. So 2 minutes on me, and then I want to hear a little bit about, I know some of you, but I don't know all of you. So I'm a CPA by background. I studied, my undergraduate's in accounting and finance. I studied at Fordham up in New York, and I worked at Price Waterhouse from 1982 to 87. I worked 5 years here in Miami, so those years, and then I transferred to our Barcelona office, and I worked 2 years in Spain. The sort of, nuance, which is why I'm here, 1980s was a sort of big time for real estate development in Florida. There was a lot of growth, a lot of migration south, a lot of development businesses. A lot of development businesses that borrow a tremendous amount of money and required audits. So I somehow got stuck, and I say stuck because it was like the worst audit ever. I got stuck one weekend or 1 week on a particular audit, and it ultimately became like a 3-year assignment. I'd spent about 9 months of the year at one particular company that was doing developments actually all over the world, south of Spain and Venezuela, in Houston, Orlando, South Florida on the West Coast. And it was like the most disorganized, informal, crazy business I've ever been in. They had like a guy named Johnny Walker, and that wasn't really his name, but when the Arabs came in, he'd take them out, and they called him Johnny Walker because he put the Johnny Walker table on the bottle, and on the table, and then they would drink, and then they would, bring capital. But this guy over like a 3-year period got like $40 million worth of equity investments in their business from wealthy Arabs. And then they went and borrowed, I'm going back, this is 1983, 84, these guys borrowed $200 million, primarily from an S&L that became the second largest S&L failure. That was a bank called Vernon Savings and Loan in a small little town in Texas. But again, there were all kinds of, what we ultimately uncovered were illicit, illegal, immoral transactions that were being done with officers of the bank in exchange for, getting loans and things like that. But what was a problem for me in a difficult time taught me a lot. And I never knew, God has plans for everybody, I never knew, where all that learning, would bring me in. And because I developed expertise there, I got involved in a couple of other development clients that we had. And so this was sort of a body of knowledge that stayed with me for all these years. And I never used it until I got a call one day from a friend of mine, about 16, 17, 18 years ago, and said, hey, listen, my boss wants to meet you. And I went and, just had dinner one day with these guys, and within a year, they hired me to run the trade zone. I ultimately became, and it was a real estate development business. I came to the company, I became the CFO, I ultimately became the chief investment officer. We sold, we had external shareholders, we bought those out. We then sold the business to a publicly traded company. I became the CIO of the publicly traded business, and then we ultimately sold that to another publicly traded company. I worked there for a while as a CIO, and then I took a year off like 8 years ago, and now I coach football and soccer and teach sometimes and manage my investments. So, but something that I learned all these years ago and thought I would never use again and sort of detested, all these years later, gave me an opportunity to become a CFO of a business where I had the technical competencies to be able to do, because I knew the treasury functions and the IT functions and the HR functions that I supervised, but in addition to that, I knew how to deal with the real estate, accounting problems that we had. And so, again, I couldn't have planned that 20 some odd years earlier. So a lot of times when I tell students, listen, because you never know when you're going to say, hey, oh, that credit analysis case study, wow, did that come in handy, You really never know when things are going to pop out. So the more you can just put into your bucket up here, the better off you're going to be, okay? So, as I said, I do this, I'm an adjunct, I do this for fun. I have a master's in finance from FIU, so I forgot that. I do this because I enjoy it. I enjoy sharing and giving back, and I learn, believe it or not, I learn as much or more. I wish I knew now what I knew when I was working, because when you got to sit in front of people and prepare and bring material, you learn. And you learn from students and know more, because all of you are involved in the industry in one way or another and have insights that I wouldn't otherwise have. So as much as at times I'm having lunch with my old boss's daughter next Friday, I try to have lunch once a week with somebody in the industry to stay, and I had an hour talk with somebody yesterday, because I want to bring to the classroom what's happening, but I also like to hear from the students, what they're seeing. So with that, if I can just sort of go around and get just a couple of minutes of where you are, what you're doing, why you're here, you know. So Harold, if you could, so that I know what I've got in front of me and how I can, you know.
Yeah, I mean, well, my background has been in technology, startups, business, but my family has been doing real estate development since I was little. So,
All in Colombia.
yeah, it's a little bit here, but yeah, mostly 95%.
And it's like Barranquilla and Cartagena and all?
Barranquilla.
Barranquilla, okay, all right.
So, for me, it was kind of a way to really just get, like, in a very quick way, a much higher level of knowledge in the real estate segment to kind of try and see how I can take that to the
Are
next
you
level.
working at all with the family or no?
I just help manage when we have a little bit, but yeah, the idea is to do some development, to actually get into.
Here
the
in South
development
Florida?
side. No, down there, we have properties to develop down there, so.
Okay. And it's more like sort of industrial stuff or?
Actually mixed use. I mean, we do have industrial park, but it's gonna be actually just
Mixed use
mixed use
stuff.
developments, yeah.
Okay. Have you found the program helpful?
Very actually, I mean, you know, you get what you get out of it what you put into it, you know what I mean? But yeah, I just went to, like a fact-finding trip, and I used a lot of the things that I learned, I actually applied a lot, so.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Okay. Jesus? Okay.
Well, my name is Jesus. I'm from Venezuela.
Are you new in the program?
No, this
Okay.
is my second semester.
Okay.
No, this is my summer of the semester.
Okay, okay, okay.
I've been in real estate as a broker since 2003, so about 14 years I've been an agent. So I decided just to make, to take another step and maybe become a developer.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the commercial industry in real estate development, and that's why I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I own a property management company,
Okay.
So-
And residential or commercial?
residential.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's it.
Excellent. Excellent. You are, because I didn't catch you.
Hey, Drew.
Okay, Drew. Go tell us.
Yeah, so my name is Drew. I'm brand new to the program and brand new to real estate. I'm pretty much a rookie, and the reason why I've decided to jump into this program and into this industry is because I've been in sales since graduating from Nova with a marketing degree a couple of years ago. Been in sales. I had a couple clients that are real estate developers, agents, and I told myself, you know what, I need to get out of that type of industry because I was selling consumer goods, worked with Citrix for a little while, and I needed to jump into a streamlined career. And I decided, let me do some research on the different industries that are my clients. I researched technology, researched healthcare, researched real estate, and I just really got, interested in it. I have some family members up in New York that are into it, and I interviewed them pretty much. I told them what can I get from it, they told me, and I told myself that I was going to become a project manager. I'm recently starting to study for that actual certification, and I want to be a project manager with a real estate development company in the next couple of years.
Now, is this your first semester in the program?
This is
Or?
my second class, yes.
Okay, so you started this morning.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, brand new.
Baptism by
I
fire.
I actually came and met Fred.
2 words professors, not just.
I actually came and met Professor Sporgy a couple months ago because I was really, wanting to get some type of, insight on the program. And I sat on his class for 4 hours, and I wasn't bored. I didn't fall asleep. I was just really interested and really into it. So I had to talk to him.
Well,
for a
you
while.
came back this afternoon, so
Yeah, of course.
it looks like you're.
I could have went home, but I came back. So.
Okay. All right. Excellent, Drew. Chanel.
Chanel Kennedy. I'm currently a realtor. It's my last semester of this program.
Oh.
Yay. Towards the end. I'd like to be a developer along the lines, but being in this program has taught me a lot of how I can apply my practices to being in the field.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay.
I actually got hired in 2015 to work for a real estate property tax consulting group called Ryan,
Okay.
and they hired me on to do business development. And so with that,
And what was your background before that?
Sales,
Okay.
sales management, for a healthcare company, for an insurance company. And so when I got hired on to work for a property tax consulting firm, I really needed to understand the players, the factors, the economy, didn't know anything, so I figured, let me check out Nova's program, check out FIU, and really liked it, so it's helped a lot. I no longer work for the property tax.
Now you've gone on to something else, or it's in the industry?
It's in the industry, right
Okay.
now I'm endeavoring into.
Okay, but
real
you've
estate
moved?
business. Yes.
Okay, all right, but you're, okay, I thought you had a different job, which is why you had moved, but not yet, but you're looking.
Well, I have a different job now, yes, I left Ryan.
Okay, you have a different job, okay, we don't need to, Coacy?
Well, I'm a real estate agent. I got interested in the program after working with the developer for some time doing some, he's a home builder, so he's looking at some properties and I decided to take a dive into it to learn more about it.
Now, you're about halfway, roughly?
No, it's my 5th class, so.
Okay, so you're going at a sort of measured, because you started in the fall?
Started in the fall last year.
Okay, so okay, makes sense. I mean, a suggestion, depending on your time, and you should speak to the other students about it. My personal perspective is to do this in a year while you're trying to hold the job down is ambitious. So either you could do it in a year with a part-time job, or maybe you take a little bit longer and don't try to kill yourself. That would be my personal advice, and I did my master's in finance in a year, but I had a flexible work schedule, and I made a commitment to work 7 days a week for 52 weeks to get it done. So if you can do that, great, but if you got kids and, baptisms and whatever, to go to, you just take a little bit longer, but absorb. The other thing is if you do it all in a year, it's like, boof.
I took the 2-year route because I knew in advance, the academic advisor even told me, she was like, well, you might want to consider doing it in 2 years, which, what got me here was the 1-year program. But what made me really want to do it in 2 years was realizing like you can burn out and you can, that will be helpful for you.
My thing, now I've only been teaching 2 classes, but there was a time when I was teaching 3. And so what happens is you get to see students at different phases, and to me what was frustrating was that there's certain topics that you may cover in different classes, which I think is all good because repetition helps. Plus you may be looking at the same thing from a different optic from a different class. And what was disappointing for me was that the people that were rushing through it didn't remember 9 months down the line something that we may have already covered a couple of times. So a lot of times there's just information overload. So that's just, my thought is, sort of nice and easy. And, now, if you've got the time, then I think you could do it. Angelo?
I got into commercial real estate after managing my own company for the last 10 years. I own a company doing disaster recovery, disaster restoration. After 10 years in that business, I got pretty sick of it. And it was the right time to change and refocus, try to learn something new. So when I look back at my background, I had been in one way, shape, or form in the real estate industry all the way from my corporate career. And then I got an interest in commercial real estate. I decided that I was going to get into commercial real estate in the brokerage side. And then when I got into it, that's when I realized that I needed a tremendous amount of knowledge very quickly. And that's why I decided to join the program. And the more I delve into the program, the more interested I become in development. And I'm here to learn how to make that $40 million loan so I can get started. You're going to tell me all about it.
Good luck. I mean, no, listen, I mean, the only thing that I would say to that, Angelo, is, and look, as I hear from a lot of people that come into the program lately, I'd say we never, at the beginning of when we started the MSRED, we didn't used to get a lot of sort of marketing people. We had a lot of more PMs. If I look at the profile of students that have come through here, I'd say the first bunch is we used to get a lot of PMs, we used to get a lot of architects that wanted to know what are their clients thinking, or thinking that they want to sort of, jump the fence here. And we actually had a lot of bankers that wanted to get a better handle on their client base. We had a few, sort of commercial real estate brokers that thought they wanted to become developers. The last few years, whether it's because we've targeted them or not, we've had a lot more of the sort of residential brokers, agents trying to, sort of make the jump. And my only point is the grass is always greener on the other side, but it isn't necessarily. And development is not the only place to make, living, and it's not the only place to make money, and it's not the only place to make money in this industry. Which is not to say that you may want to stay as an agent, or you may want to stay as an architect, or you may want to stay, with a property management business or whatever. But the development business sounds lucrative, and it can be, but it's also a very cyclical business. And as much as one can make a lot of money, one can lose a lot of money, okay? And it's also a business that is very difficult to do on a very small scale. Now, you can go to secondary, tertiary markets and do smaller scale projects, but if you're in big markets, in Barranquilla, you can't do something small, likely. Probably things you're looking at have to have a certain scale to it. If you're in, you're going to do something in South Florida, it's probably going to have scale. Now, if you go to Lando Lakes, Florida, wherever that is, and it's like northeast of Tampa, I think, or something, or Zephyr Hills or something, and you could probably do a small little strip center or something. You could probably do like $1 million project or something. So, yeah, you can do development in a smaller scale. It's difficult to do $1 million, strip center in South Florida when the land's going to cost you $3 million, So, but my only point is, yes, development is a good industry, and there's a lot of things that we teach you about development, but to be a developer is not the only way to make a living, and it's not the only way to make a healthy living in real estate. A lot of the allied services, from marketing to property management, are definitely very valuable as well. So just, keep that in mind as you go forward.
Yeah.
And if you get the $40 million loan, great.
What I find interesting is that a lot of the brokers that I talk to, they show no interest for development. So I think it is an opportunity there, if you're in the business and if you can prove yourself successful in brokerage, to tap into the development, because it's a pretty easy. I would think it's a pretty easy transition, especially with somebody with my background in construction.
Yeah, the only thing, listen, the only thing, and it's not, and I think it's an important discussion to have, okay, is we all have different temperaments and personalities, and one of the things we learned in the capital markets class, hopefully, is we all have a different risk profile.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we may have the technical abilities to do a lot of different things, but we may not have the disposition to do them. Okay, and so, for example, a lot of the people that are, in my experience, a lot of the very successful commercial brokers are people that don't have the personality or the discipline. They're more the left-brained or whatever, creative type people. They love to sell the dream, but if you're not a good PM, if you're scatterbrained, right, and very creative and all that, how do you get it done? Because that's why companies need, like the sales guy, and then you need a straight-up guy, a stand-up guy that does things behind them. So I'm sorry, I probably say things that are politically incorrect, okay? But my point is we all have different, and so a lot of times, the guy who's a very successful intermediary, is personable. I don't want to say can stretch the truth, but can sell a dream. And then the guy that's got to build it has to have, he's going to tell you why you can't get done and all. He'll never sell his way out of a paper bag. Yeah. So different temperaments suit different careers as well. So I didn't catch your name because you came in late too. Not to rub it in, but to rub it. You are?
I'm Ken, Sue Henry.
Okay, gotcha, Ken.
I went to FAU for undergrad. I actually studied biology.
Okay, great lead into this.
It's a natural progression.
Right. I know I'm a doctor actually.
We got a lot of amoebas floating out of
I've been doing property management for the last 10 years.
Okay.
I didn't use biology, but yeah, I've been doing property management, and I kind of found.
Are you working as a property manager now, or?
Yeah,
okay.
I do insurance also. But I I got into this, I kind of saw it and thought this might be a good way to open up my career a little bit.
Now, where do you work now?
I actually work, it's a family company, my father started a company.
Okay.
It's called DMI, it's in Deerfield.
Okay.
Beach.
And what sort of assets do you guys?
It's all multifamily.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you've got multiple assets that you,
Right.
or you have one. You have various.
We manage about 11 multifamily buildings.
And you do all of them, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we have, we have 2 employees, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
we do most.
And how far along are you in this program?
This is my second semester.
Okay, so you started last. So you've had, this is like your 3rd or 4th class, something like that?
This semester will be my 6th class.
Okay, because you did, okay.
Before last.
Okay. And I didn't catch you either.
Crystal, Zuby.
Crystal. Crystal, tell us about you.
Completely unrelated also. I'm new to real estate. This is my first semester.
Okay.
I studied criminal justice and public relations, so I was always intrigued by buildings. So I
Okay.
had like a weird fascination for buildings, and like either real estate or real estate development would have been a route. So I came across this program and I was interested in it. So everybody told me that's probably not a good idea because I moved back from Pensacola and I
Okay.
was working for ESPN Radio, so completely unrelated to.
Okay, and you're working for ESPN Radio now, or you were working?
I was working.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now are you working at all, or are you looking for anything in the industry?
I'm working for a lawyer, for an attorney. 'Cause
Okay, does he do any, or she do any real estate work?
No,
No.
immigration.
Okay, no, I'm trying,
Hey, they need property.
just trying to get, no, just trying to get a link. No, but what becomes, I think, valuable after you get a couple courses under your belt is maybe to look for an attorney that does real estate work,
Yeah.
or, you know.
EB5.
Sorry?
EB5.
Wow.
EB5 visa.
There. I guess you see this guy's selling the dream. It didn't even occur to me, this guy's right, okay.
He's my second favorite person in the program. I'm first. He's second.
Rosie?
I'm Rosie. I'm an architect. I'm a licensed architect. Always saw my formal training is from Colombia, my background. I graduated from Colombia. And in Colombia, empirically, you become a developer. And I've been here long enough to where I've been working for developers, mostly in the multifamily field. 85% of our work is multifamily development, residential development. And I didn't want to do it empirically, so that's why I joined the program. I think it's given me a lot more to bring to the table, and I'm very happy this is my next class.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Jordan?
I'm Jordan. This is also my last class. I started off in commercial real estate brokerage, and yeah, just didn't really like the sales aspect of it, but I did get intrigued with real estate as the industry. So I thought that it would be good to come to this program to learn more about that, and like the fact that there's a development focus. But I will say I didn't come to this program specifically or only for development. But I have found it to be useful, especially now that I'm working for a developer and working with 100% multifamily properties. So it's been useful, and it's helping me continue to move forward. So.
And you're almost done as well?
Yeah, this is my last class.
Oh, okay. All right. Mike?
So my name is Michael, and hopefully I do well in this class. So I've been working as an accountant in property management for the last 10 years, this last 6 years as a controller. Just to expand on email, so my first company I worked for was at Class A REE, an office, Class A office, REE. Then I went to multifamily that we owned. So it wasn't all cash basis. Then I worked for a tax credit deal. Then I went back to commercial and worked for a Plus that did a lot of third-party management, and that's where a lot of the quasi-cash accrual basis stuff started happening. Now I'm starting my own company and signing a contract to manage 55,000 square feet of retail. So
that's your first sort of client.
Yeah.
You're gonna live off that.
For now, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a part-time job working as a, for a developer, actually. So it works out perfect because, 55,000 square feet, about $3,500 a month. plus this helps supplement that. So hopefully, as I build my company resume, this degree will look good and enable me to have different conversations that I wouldn't have been able to have before. Or if that flounder is then, hey, here's this guy that has 12 years of, however many years, of financial accounting and property, and now he's got the development degree. So, you know, I'm trying to get away. I didn't want to sit behind the desk, wanted to get more into the operations. I never can pursue my CPA. I got my bachelor's and master's in accounting from Nova.
Okay.
So I just
No,
never
no,
had the CPA bug. The worst mistake I did was not doing it after my bachelor's.
No, I mean, but it's not what it,
No, but a lot of people, cause, I resigned from a job, and, you're going around and you're going to interviews and applying for jobs, and I got a pretty decent resume, but they look for these letters, and I'm like, look, you know, I know a lot of CPAs, and not to boast or anything, but half of them, they can't even count for my knowledge. You know, it's just a test, but, you know, again, I mean.
No, I mean, listen, you're absolutely right. A lot of times just having, you know, the initials after your name don't necessarily, you know, mean anything. But in certain industries it matters, you know, and you know, in the accounting one, you know, I still keep my license active. It's a pain because I've got to do 80 hours of continuing education every 2 years, but I've found that it sort of adds a level of credibility. Whether it's real or not, it's at least perceived. You know?
No, I was considering doing the CMA. Because I don't plan on working in the public sector.
Right.
So for a private sector, the CMA, it's a little more geared towards that. You get more into budgeting, which you don't really go into with the CPA. I've done the course, I've done the Becker. I had a death in the family and just kind of like really screwed up everything for me. So.
You know what? The thing I was going to say was I forgot to mention I also did a stint for about 1.5 years in another accounting firm at Ernst & Young. I set up a diligence practice for Latin America, and it was, again, very fascinating professionally, just personally it kind of stung. I mean, I was on a plane for 1.5 years and, you know, living in strange places and things like that. But I did a deal, and it was actually a deal here in the States, and it was a guy that he owned, I'm going to say 80-something gas stations, and definitely tertiary markets in the Southeast, you know. Macon, Georgia, Auburn, Alabama, places like, you know, towns I don't remember. And the guy that was the CFO of the business, an old crusty Cuban guy, you know, he was like in Columbus, Georgia, and he'd left Cuba like in 1950, barely spoke Spanish. But something I learned from him was kind of interesting. If you own one gas station, you can make a lot of money. And if you own 2 gas stations, you can make a lot of money, especially if you're operating them yourself. The minute you start having 20, 30, 40, 50 gas stations, and now you've got a higher you know, management structure, you don't make that much money. And it's kind of like you can own a McDonald's and make a lot of money. You got to work hard to make a lot of money. Property management's the same way. You may be able to get 2 or 3 accounts where you can make a nice living. You know, the problem is and people say property management. No, it's a volume business. You know, I need 10 million square feet. You got 10 million square feet of headache sometimes, you know?
Yeah, but my business model in my head, which I gotta put pen to paper, like, it's for right now to build up my resume, to say, hey, look, I've got a couple stuff, but eventually go out there, you know, like everybody in Florida, I got a sales license, I'll turn that into a broker license, and then eventually start putting together deals and go out and get the investment. So, because I don't wanna do third party, I wanna own the stuff, because you have more impact on it. Doing third parties is just, people are assholes.
Listen, I'm going to go back and say I'm with you. I like to participate in the equity of deals. I don't like the debt piece. I don't like being a creditor, and I don't like being a service provider. I want a piece of the action. But you can make a very nice living being an intermediary or being a service provider. That, you know, but you got to find the right niche for who you are. You know, so
at least a mix.
Or a mix.
Because you piss somebody off and then they're gone and then you're like, oh, what do I do now? So.
Knock on another door.
That's true.
Kristen, right?
Yes. I'm one of the people who doesn't really have a background in real estate. I've been in this program for 1 year now, but I work here at Nova, so I can only take 2 classes.
Okay. And where do you work in Nova?
Well,
Did I say something bad about Nova, by the way? They
no.
Great institute.
I was going to say, no.
What did I say about Dr. Hambury? No, I don't.
Yeah, no, I was in financial aid for like 5 years, and I progressed to the point where if anybody got a scholarship for anything, I was the person posting it and budgeting on scholarships and stuff like that. But I recently had like an opportunity. Nova's building a med school, a hospital, a teaching building, so the opportunity arose for me to work directly under that dean and to build that entire program. So that's what I do now. I'm building the MD program.
What
and
is,
the building.
what is the first cohort coming into that program?
We're not supposed to say it, but it's like 2018.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So you're taking applications already?
No, you can't take out any type of application until we have like our accrediting body gives us a level of accreditation. We won't be accredited, but.
But the whole goal is next.
We'll literally get the quote unquote like okay in basically a January, February time, and we have to have the class by August. So it gives us only a couple months.
And how many people in the cohort?
The first one I believe is gonna be 50. So we have to find 50 students, and at that point most people would already have chosen it.
Well, I'm asking you for a reason, because one of my former players is graduated from UM. His dad's a doctor. This kid's like a straight A student. He came to school the other day, and so he was telling me, no, I'm gonna take the MCATs like now in the fall, but I'm really not gonna apply till for the 2019. But this would be a great opportunity for him.
Yeah, definitely, and it's to be the charter class of an
Yeah.
MD school is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And so is this going to help you? This program going to help you with?
Well, that was the thing. How I gained interest is because when I was working in financial aid, I wasn't really. I was like, I'm not gonna do this forever. And I came in contact with a young lady. She worked for Invesco, and
Invesco?
No.
Invesca?
Mhm.
Okay, I don't know that one. I know
Oh, well, it's like
Invesco,
it's a pretty big real estate development
They're
company.
implementation, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I went to all. They had a.
Okay, there's a bigger one called Invesco, which is headquartered
okay.
in the UK, but that's a.
Yeah, no, it's not
that's
like that big. It's like locally.
Locally big.
Based, yeah. And I met this young lady, and I went to all her events from when they started. They had an idea for a property, they bought the land, and I was there through the whole thing until they got it approved, like at the city hall, and it was going to actually be built. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. Yeah. And then I came to school. But then now I'm doing.
But you never know where this knowledge is going to.
No, exactly, and honestly it applies because we're doing a lot of structural things. We work with architects, we work with a couple facilities.
Where are they going to physically put the hospital?
The UPP, the big building with the pizza loft and the
Okay.
store and all that, that's gone. They're building a hospital there.
They're taking away pizza.
Yes.
And this is an
And on
HCA
Main.
hospital?
Yes, they're
Okay.
closing down Plantation, I think.
Right, because they're transferring that license to.
And coming here. So that, like, I see stuff all the time that I
That's
never
cool.
hear. Yeah,
That's
it's really cool. It's been a help in some stuff, especially when I work with mostly doctors and MD people, so they have no background, and when facilities comes in and is telling them stuff, they're like, oh, whatever, and I'm like, no, I think you should look more closely. But, yeah.
Excellent, interesting. Mariel?
Yeah, Marielle, yeah.
Ariel, yeah.
Marielle, I am a realtor. I've been doing residential real estate for about 5 years. I joined the program because Florida, realtors are everywhere in South Florida, and I really wanted to stand out, both on the residential. Now I want to do more commercial and development sort of stuff. So this is my second semester, my 6th class.
Okay, and so far so good?
Yeah, I'm learning a lot.
Olivia, did your candidate win?
Yes, my candidate went for National Youth Movement.
Okay, I don't, is that good or bad?
It's good.
It's good, okay.
But I don't want PLP,
Okay, I don't know anything about Bahamian politics, but.
Hello, my name is Olivia. I just came back from the Bahamas. That's why he's fully aware of that. This is my next semester will be my last semester. My interests are in industrial and commercial development. I'm hoping to go